What's going on, everybody? Welcome to Breaking Bet, the debut for Bet Karma. I'm JohnnyVTV, lead betting analyst for Bet Karma. And listen, there was only one way I could have possibly started the debut of this show. It's with my very dear friend, great handicapper, NBC Sports betting expert, Brad Thomas, aka Lord BLT. What's up, man? How are you?
I'm good. Anytime I get to hang out and talk some football with JohnnyVTV, listen, it's a great day. I got to tell you something, Johnny. I haven't told anybody this because I was filming this TikTok, right? And the TikToks are great, but to be honest, when you're making these TikToks, all of the fans or followers, all they want to do is see parlays, right? So I'm doing this TikTok, and I've never recorded a TikTok and then switched what I was doing mid TikTok. But I was talking, and I go, you know what? I'm paying respect to my boy Johnny VTV, and I'm making a little parleezy. And I said that, dog, just thinking about you.
Parleezy! Wait, you said parleezy.
I did. I was cooking it up, bro.
That's classic.
I was cooking it
up. You know what, bro? Always pay respect to your elders, and just the homage. It's unreal, bro. It's gas. The fact that you thought of me to say parleezy, it's an honor, bro. And we all know that I made up a ton of words, and people didn't really understand what I was talking about half the time because I'd refer to things in such a crazy manner. But listen, man, we have a huge show this weekend, and I felt like kicking off Breaking Bet, which I thought was a great name, to be honest. And
absolutely smashing name. Yeah.
Wait, so you know what the other name was going to be? I was thinking I was between these two names. So Breaking Bet was one.
Yeah.
Karma's a Bet was the other one.
Oh, that's tight. Listen, both of those work, but I like Breaking Bet, man. I think it's fire.
It plays off really well. So before we get into Super Bowl Sunday and, any kind of props that you have, let's do a quick rehash of last night with the NFL honors. How did you end up doing? Did you clean up big time with all of your futures bets, or did you kind of get skinned alive with some of the upsets?
Listen, so the greatest thing about betting futures market is if you get in at the right price, you can get out and you can make out all right. I went 1 for 3. Yeah, I went 1 for 3 with Justin Jefferson, Offensive Player of the Year. Oh, I guess I was 1 for 4 because I also took Tyreek Hill. That was enough to pay for everything. But I was actually pretty shocked that I thought I was free rolling. I had Kenneth Walker and Brock Purdy for Offensive Player of the Year. Not that I don't think Garrett Wilson had a great season. I just was really of the mind that the voters were going to compare his numbers to Jamar Chase, compare his numbers to Odell Beckham Jr., but they didn't. They actually said, dude, congratulations for doing this with such bum quarterbacks. They gave him a lot of kudos, and I mean, it was well-deserved, so I lost that lock. I didn't go heavy on Brock Purdy because I just thought Brock Purdy was a shot in the dark, but winning Justin Jefferson was enough. It was actually kind of funny. I think I was pretty disappointed last night in not winning Kenneth Walker or Brock Purdy. We were driving home from our volleyball game, and we were watching the awards because we were in the car, and they were announcing Offensive Rookie of the Year. We parked in the parking garage, and I was like, do not move, do not touch anything because I don't want nothing to go off. And then they announced it, and I was like, I didn't say anything. And then my girl was trying to justify why Garrett Wilson won. And I go, you know what? It's whatever. I'm taking my Justin Jefferson money and I'm putting it. This is the worst bet ever. But I'm putting it on the Bucks minus 8.5 at minus 105 against the Lakers. Ultimate tilt, bro.
Oh,
ultimate tilt. The whole game they're losing by almost double digits, and then somehow, some way, Milwaukee wins by 9. I start screaming in the middle of the night. My girl's like, dude, are you not going to go to bed? I'm watching on my phone, and I'm just screaming. I'm like, let's go. It made up for everything that happened. I don't normally tilt, but with these futures, dudes, you're so invested. I felt like I was one of the players, and it's even just with Heisman with my Caleb Williams ticket. I'm over here downgrading Max Duggan. Oh man, it felt so good to I doubled that money up. So it was nice. It was a heck of a sweat, though. I'll say that.
Yeah, honestly. So I decided yesterday I actually decided last week. I was like, listen, Thursday, February 9th, which I was surprised because usually it's on Saturday. I thought it was the day before the Super Bowl. for when they give out the awards. But
Yeah.
I decided like weeks ago, I was like, listen, I can't watch this sober. I need to drink during this because this is way too stressful. And like, I have a lot riding. Like, listen, man, like I enjoy playing props and playing games throughout the season, but like, I don't go crazy. Where I hit hard is in the futures market. So like, you have a lot at stake, but you also have a lot of financial possibilities to come out with a big reward. So I was like, listen, this is a stressful night. Grab the bottle of Casamigos. Like, I was anxiously waiting for this to start. I was calming my nerves by watching you since it came out. Like,
how is it, by the way?
It was all right. It was all right the first part. I was like, all right, let's settle in. Then it starts. I'm pacing back and forth like I normally do. I get like a lunatic when it comes to this. So I'm like walking around with a bottle of Casamigos, and then like I'm yelling at the TV. So Jefferson comes off the board first, which I knew was going to happen. Which Justin Jefferson was my favorite and my most sure thing for futures bet in 2023. I knew this guy was going to win, lead the league in yards. I had it all. Like, it was a huge win, and I knew that was happening. So I wasn't really worried about that, but I was okay. Nice, we got that one off the board. Jettas is in. Started grittying with a bottle of Migos in my hand. I don't even know how to gritty. Italians don't gritty, but then defensive player of the year. I was a little bit worried because I had a huge position on Bosa.
Okay,
and like Micah Parsons got the star in his helmet. He's a fantastic player. He's one of the best players in the NFL. And you know what kind of fan favorite he gets. So I was like a little bit worried there, but I was like, listen, Bosa closes a gigantic favorite. He comes home. I was screaming at the TV that, I was so happy that Bosa comes home. Then we get offensive rookie there, Garrett Wilson. I had a little something on him, nothing crazy. I was really pissed because
what odds did you have? What odds did you have Wilson at?
I took Wilson at the end of the year once I realized like they've been writing Olave off for the entire year, which was ridiculous. So I got him at like plus 200. Nothing crazy. Like this was in the mix when it was Wilson, Purdy, and Kenny Walker. And I thought Olave probably should have not only been nominated as a finalist, but won outright. And then D-Roy, Sauce Gardner, that was another biggie for me. So I had that one in the bank. Then it started to get really sweaty, right? Because comeback player of the year, Geno was a huge stake of me. I had a huge stake in Geno.
I know you were talking about Geno like literally every time I talked to you, like you were like, "Oh, Geno's got to win it," and then I just wanted to push your buttons a little bit, and I was like, "Oh, what about those 3 picks he threw?"
Every time I wrote an article for football season, and it was about Seahawks, because remember I was writing up and I was picking Seattle in our Circa Millions pool every week. So I was always finding out a way to mention Geno Smith as comeback player of the year, and I have a huge ticket on him. So it was nice that he came home. Where I lost, the only bet I lost in the futures, I think it was a travesty. It was a damn travesty. Brian Daboll winning Coach of the Year was ridiculous. I had a huge thing with Kyle Shanahan in the mix, but Brian Daboll had no business winning. The only reason he got the award is because he coached for the Giants.
And the New York market, dude. It literally is the New York market, bro.
Dude, because let's call it what it is. All right, fine. Like I was huge on Daboll. I thought he was going to have a big season. He was going to turn them around. And I love Brian Daboll. I think he's a fantastic coach, and I love the hire. But when you look at it, fine. They won 9 games. They made the playoffs.
Yeah.
But there were projected wins at 7. So it's only two wins better. Meanwhile, he loses to Sirianni 3 times. You get Shanahan, who went 13-4 with the third string quarterback going 6-0, 7-0, leading the number 1 defense and just, really making a name for himself. Sirianni wasn't on the ballot. I think Pete Carroll.
That was weird. Pete Carroll, Sirianni, I felt like they did more than Dabble did. Like for the Seahawks, bro, how many people weren't lining up in droves to hammer, to absolute max the Giants win total under? No one was doing that preseason. Every single person I know that was maxing team totals, they were maxing the under for the Seahawks preseason. And that alone should have deserved the respect to have Pete Carroll out there.
He turns it around with Geno Smith. To me, I'm not saying Pete Carroll should have won. What I'm saying is Pete Carroll should have gotten it over Brian Daboll. Brian Daboll, in my opinion, was the 5th most deserving coach. It should have went Shanahan, Sirianni, Carroll Peterson, 3-4, and then Daboll. 5. So that was really disappointing. You know, that almost made me want to throw my TV off my 7th floor balcony, despite all the other wins. So, you know, we got to put that behind us. I had nightmares last night, dude. I like saw Brian Dable's shit-eating grin with his big beard. Like I saw it in my dreams, and I just couldn't sleep last night. So
I knew Dable hit because one of my buddies from Gold Boys was sweating it all season, and then our group chat, he didn't even say who wins. All he see is "Let's go" in all caps, and I was like, okay, he's happy.
You know what I noticed about the awards last night? It was pretty much if they put the person second, the person who went second in the introduction, like when they announced the finalists, and there was 3. If you were second, you won. I think that happened in pretty much every case. So that was that's how I figured out Dabo won before they actually announced it.
I try not to figure out that stuff, and dude, it's so hard for me to watch these awards because like. You know how our gig is, bro. We're on our phones all the time, checking stats, getting updates. I have to turn off my notifications because like the way people like Twitter, whoever is listening, if you have important news to share that's not like earth shattering, give it a 30-second count for those who aren't on cable and might be streaming or have slow service. I literally hate that. Like I didn't turn off all my notifications because I didn't want to get any updates of like, oh, this guy won, that guy won. And I'm like, well, what was the point of me watching, you know?
Yeah, it was really disappointing, but I mean, listen, it is what it is. Still had a pretty good season. Hoping to hit, my Super Bowl bets. So
yeah,
that's actually what we're going to get into before #ad. If you want all the Super Bowl player prop predictions that are part of Bet Karma Premium, go to betkarma.com/JohnnyVTV and sign up. NBA, college basketball, and NHL player prop predictions included. Definitely get on that. We have a lot of good stuff. I got my Super Bowl article coming out tonight or tomorrow, including all my favorite props. But spoiler, you're going to get some of them here right on this podcast. So without further ado, Mr. Brad Thomas, Lord BLT, we have Super Bowl 57, Kansas City Chiefs versus the Philadelphia Eagles at -1.5, over under 50.5. This has not moved all week. In fact, It hasn't moved in pretty much 2 weeks. Who you got?
Dude, can you just imagine if you were plugged in with the sports book where when the second the line's released, you got Eagles as a dog, and then you would have gotten Eagles at +115, and then you would have gotten the Chiefs as high as +115. Then you would have just been chilling. You max bet both of those. You're winning a good amount of money if you max it, good amount of money with no sweat. I actually have been going back and forth on this, right? Like I for a good part of the first buildup, I was going to take the Chiefs. I was going to say, you know what? The Chiefs, they have the better quarterback. I'm getting plus money for Patrick Mahomes. There's just so many things that I liked. Not that I liked, but I wanted to discredit from the Eagles, right? Like the Eagles, they didn't play a single good quarterback all season. The Eagles, their numbers are a little fraudulent because of who they played. Their schedule was easy. The game where they got challenged was against the Commanders, and they lost. I actually just think all that nonsense I was saying was exactly that, was just nonsense. I don't really believe that. Like, I don't have that strong conviction where I feel like I really want to take the Chiefs. I think if I take the Chiefs, it's just going to be because they're dogs. But then that also worries me, right? I do think Vegas hung that number up with the Eagles as dogs because they had that thought that people were going to be interested in Kansas City and they didn't want to give Kansas City out as a dog. And then when money flew in on the Eagles, they took their position to try to make sure they can get as even as possible, where they just sit there and just absorb the money on the Eagles because they cannot move the line. Right now, people are starting to get a little bit more and more talk about Kansas City Chiefs, but the line's not moving because they don't want to move that line. They took their position, which worries me. Right, that scares me. It makes me think like people are starting to come back on Kansas City, especially. We're all saying the same thing I am. Why hasn't that line moved? Why hasn't that line budged? So ultimately, I'm probably not going to bet the actual winner. And I'm okay with that because I have more than enough player props in my repertoire, things that I've bet that will make me have fun throughout the entire Super Bowl. I really haven't bet many novelty props yet, but I'm the kind of guy, Johnny, I'll tell you this, like I normally hate when the Super Bowl party is really loud. If they're playing music, it makes me mad. I got my sheet with all my bets. I go through and check them off as they hit. I'm that guy. I'll probably have like 20 bets, but that doesn't mean I'm going to have like 21 unit bets. Like I'll probably have like 4 or 5 1-unit bets. The rest like 0.1 to 0.5, you know?
Yeah, so I have a different approach this year. So let me first start off by saying I think this is the toughest Super Bowl to pick. And some people are going to have the complete opposite opinion. They're like, oh, I know Philly's winning, or I know KC's winning.
Yeah.
To me, that's not my case, because there's about 17 and a half different ways this could go, depending on how execution happens. Like if Kansas City can't block Philly, Chiefs have no chance.
Yeah.
But, if the Chiefs do block really well and they affect how they've been moving the ball all year, then I think that they're going to have a very good chance of winning. So that's really where it comes down to. I've never had that fear or that concern in the past for Super Bowls. So, I have a Chiefs ticket to win the Super Bowl from before the playoffs started. And, it's a solid number, nothing crazy. But, I'm kind of figuring out what to do with that. And I was thinking, should I just hedge, or maybe should I wait till the game starts? It's a little bit risky. And like, I was kind of, the best case scenario is the Chiefs get out to like a 10-0 start, and I try and grab Philly at like plus whatever the number is. And then that way, I'm secure that I could even possibly middle.
Yeah.
I have to go with Kansas City here. And I'm not even saying because my ticket. The reason I believe Kansas City will come out on top, and I think they will end up blocking, Andrew Wiley against Son Reddick is probably the biggest concern.
That's the biggest matchup of the entire Super Bowl for me.
Exactly, 100%. So I just think, bro, Patrick Mahomes is an underdog. You know what he's done as an underdog in his career, but
it's crazy.
He's been here before. Andy Reid's been here. Travis Kelce's been here. This is an experienced team that this moment is not too big for them. They know what this pressure is like. They know what this moment is like. And I got to be honest, there's a path for them. If they can block, which is a big if, I think this is where Kansas City is going to be able to put up at least 24 points on this Eagles defense. We've seen how good on paper it is, and a lot of it has to do with how bad their schedule was, or how favorable it was, I should say. Kind of like the Buffalo Bills last year.
Mm-hmm.
But you can run on this Eagles defense. They're very beatable. And the biggest point here, I think Kansas City needs to commit to the ground game and pick and choose their moments in the pass game, because the Eagles, all 3 of their losses this year have been when the opposing team has run the ball at least 30 times on them. They won 2 of those games, so they're 2-3 in that spot. But the 2 wins were against Houston and Chicago, who both had Philly on the ropes. So I think that's the formula there. Pound Pacheco, and then obviously you pick and choose your spots, because Darius Slay, Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, James Bradbury, like they've been elite on paper, but like they haven't played a quarterback, and they're not going to play a quarterback like Mahomes, and they're gamblers. Like they live to make the big play, so like they'll make mistakes. And then obviously like Travis Kelce, I think can dice any linebacker they put on. They're a downhill linebacking group, and I think that's really where the mismatch is in the pass game. Like that's no surprise, but who are they going to put on Travis Kelce? I think Kelce needs at least 15 targets, and I think he's going to get it. And I think that's how they're going to win. That's going to be the matchup edge in this game. I think it's going to be Kansas City coming down to the wire, win last-second field goal.
That correlates with one of my plays anyway. How they're going to attack that secondary, attack that linebacking group in pass plays. I think that it's hard for me to say like. I feel like every Super Bowl we've had recently, it's been pretty clear cut, at least from me as a bettor, of who I'm going to bet on. This is like the first time where I feel like I don't know. I genuinely don't know. Yeah, it's weird. And I don't normally have it. Like normally when I place a bet, like I'm like a lot of people who place bets, like boom, bet is in. That thing is winning. There's 0 chance that it loses. And this one, it's been pretty funky going back and forth. I guess I'll see how many adult waters I have before kickoff, and I'll see if I get a little action on one side.
Yeah, I like I said, I still got to decide what I want to do. But so I want to just paint the picture here. So this kind of leads into our next segment here. We got the Super Bowl MVP. So real quick, and I'm sure you would agree with this, if you like Kansas City to win, you're better off just betting Mahomes at plus 130. So like, let's say you're like, all right, I want to bet the Chiefs. I want to put 300 on it. Bet Mahomes, 130 to win MVP. He's got a 97% chance to win it if the Chiefs pull it out. there's pretty much no circumstance where Kansas City is going to win and Mahomes isn't the MVP. Almost no possibility, right?
It'd be pretty tough. Like you would need like Travis Kelce, like 150 plus and 3 touchdowns. And even still, all that Mahomes has been going through off season. Oh my God, he lost Tyreek Hill. Mahomes won't be able to do it again. Mahomes, the regular season MVP, played through a high ankle sprain. Like the narrative is set. Like that's just one of those really difficult things for a pass catcher to win MVP when you have that kind of narrative for your quarterback.
Yeah, and don't forget they he's already got the MVP. So if you got the Super Bowl and the Super Bowl MVP, complete the trifecta. And really the only case was last year when Matthew Stafford didn't win it and Cooper Kupp did. Like I mean we saw that coming, but
Stafford threw an interception in that game. He wasn't sharp. Like it wasn't like Stafford had a great game.
Well, so it's weird because Stafford did a lot of this last year. Stafford would like at the end of halves or on 3rd and forever, he would just throw up a bomb. It was basically a punt. So on paper, he threw a pick. But it's not like that. It was a 3rd and 20, and he threw it 50 yards. It's a punt.
Do you think that for last year's? I'm trying to remember this correctly. Do you think that there was at all anybody who was voting for Cooper Kupp to win MVP of that game was kind of saying, Cooper Kupp, you just need to do good enough for us to win since you didn't win regular season MVP? We're going to give this to you. I feel like that felt like I was one of the guys who was on Cooper Kupp MVP last year. I wasn't on Stafford. And I think that was part of my reasoning. I'm trying to recall, but do you have any thoughts to that?
I think that's a valid point. I mean, Cooper Kupp did win Offensive Player of the Year though. And if
remember so many people wanted him to win the MVP. I thought it was kind of like a lot of people were saying he should win MVP.
I didn't understand how people could say, oh, Kupp's an MVP candidate, but Stafford's not. Bro, Stafford's for almost 5,000 yards and 40 touchdowns coming in to a new offense year one, leading this team to the Super Bowl. And Cooper Kupp, which is it drives me crazy because they're like, oh, he's elite. He's a top receiver. Bro, nobody thought that before 2021. He was arguably a top 20 receiver. Robert Woods was the better receiver out of the two for pretty much their whole careers. And I'm not saying I'm not a fan of Kupp, but just the fact is he's not like a Justin Jefferson. His production was insane because he got 30 targets a game in a Sean McVay scheme that was just designed perfectly for him. And, I think that's where a lot of people kind of got lost in the sauce a little bit.
Yeah.
But, Mahomes, if you want Kansas City, but I have an interesting one that I might take a sprinkle on because I want to protect myself just in case. And it is still a long shot, so it's no guarantee. I really like Hassan Reddick. You can get him at 34-1, and you could check out other spots. But my theory is this. If Philly runs away with this game, if this game gets out of hand, if the Eagles can't or the Chiefs can't block the Eagles, and we have a similar situation of the Niners game where Reddick would have been the MVP.
Yeah.
Why not? If Reddick is capable of getting 2.5 sacks, a forced fumble, a couple tackles for loss, and if nobody shows out on the offense, that's very possible.
Yeah, it totally is.
Considering the fact that, even though Mahomes only got sacked 28 times this year in his 17 games or 26, whatever it was, there were games that he was sacked 3 or 4 times. So it's very possible. And I think that's definitely one to consider for a long shot. So I'm probably going to do a little bit of sprinkling on that as well. And I really think Reddick is a great outside chance to win Super Bowl MVP should Philly pull this off.
No, that makes a ton of sense. I don't think I'm I've seen some people take Sanders. I don't think I really want Sanders. It could make sense for Smith. On What's the Spread podcast, I know Miles took Sanders. I think that makes Smith. I think that makes sense too. Big moment, wide receiver who lives for these moments. Did the same thing in the national championship where he had over 200 receiving yards. But for the Chiefs, it'd be hard for me to pick anybody but Mahomes. I'm just trying to go down the list of who outside of Hassan Reddick would be able to explode. That's not Jalen Hurts, Devonta Smith, AJ Brown. But I just feel like there's no way Jalen Hurts is not scoring a touchdown with his legs, right? So if Jalen Hurts throws for 300 yards, has a touchdown with his legs, you would almost need your wide receiver to have 200 yards and 2 touchdowns to even be in the conversation for MVP.
In my opinion, if Hurts goes for, let's say Hurts goes for 240 in the air, 1 touchdown, and he goes 30 on the ground, maybe 1 touchdown. Outside of like a defensive player scoring a defensive touchdown to turn the game, I really wouldn't see any other way Hurts doesn't get it, because let's not forget, a lot of the people probably wanted Hurts to win MVP. And
Yeah.
like, you really couldn't give it to him after he missed 2 games. So like, assuming Hurts stays healthy, he probably wins the award.
Yeah.
And, people are satisfied that Jalen Hurts takes a huge step forward. And, he seems like he's a great kid, and, he had an unbelievable year, and, everything that comes with that. So I think maybe now he's kind of got a narrative base. But I think at 130, though, like, you can maybe do the same kind of thing. If you believe the Eagles are going to win, like, Hurts is a good bet at 130. I feel like Hurts probably has like an 85% chance to get the award should Philly win. Maybe pushing 90. I don't think it's anywhere near as a certainty as Mahomes, because the Eagles have shown they can win if Jalen Hurts does nothing.
I agree. I agree. I like, it's just, man, it just has to be set up so perfect for someone other than Hurts to win it if the Eagles win, on offensive player at least.
Yeah, I agree 100%. So that's going to be an interesting one to see. So, Brad, let's move on to some player props. What's your favorite props and plays, outside of the typical game and MVP stuff?
Yeah, so my favorite, Jalen Hurts over 31.5 passing attempts. I said this before, and Howard Bender actually said this when we were backstage on a show that I thought made so much sense. Player props, especially for the Super Bowl, they're a lot like Pringles, right? Yeah, you got one, you want to keep eating more until you run out of the Pringles, and then all you're left are the sprinkles, right? And I don't want to just sit here and be eating everyone else's crumbs. These lines have been hammered, abused, but when I was thinking about that, I started to dig a little bit deeper. And it wasn't me thinking about his analogy. I only heard that analogy today. I've had this Hurts prop out a couple days now, but it made me want to think, like, what are the props that are less sexy, right? Like, that's how you're going to beat the books. Like, the books, this is the most sharp the sports books are going to be on props all year. One game, but the whole world's watching. This is the most sharp they're going to be. But when the number is not correct, oh yeah, they're going to have their limit set where it's going to be able to move that line to make it get to a more comfortable position. I think that Jalen Hurts passing attempts is something that's not very sexy. A lot of people aren't talking about. They're talking about how many yards he's going to have, his shoulder hurts, over, under. They're going to talk about how many rushing attempts he's going to have. Is he going to risk it more in the big game, or is he going to protect his shoulder so he plays throughout the entire game? They're going to talk about how many rushing attempts. So I looked at this market, right? I looked at this market without even looking at the number. I looked at, if I were to set the number of a high, like, what do I think? Not a high, like a median. Like, what he would get if he played this 8 out of 10 times. Competitive game. 1.5 point spread. I said he'll probably get 35 passing attempts. So then I went and I looked at the number, and it was 31.5, and I was okay with that. We obviously know that he missed that number twice in the playoffs, obviously, because they were both blowouts. Throughout the season, he averaged 30.5, and there was a lot of those games where he only had like 22 passing and 24 passing attempts because they were blowouts. I do think this is going to be a competitive game, and I do think that Jalen Hurts' shoulder will also help us with this bet, because he's going to have to do a lot more. It's happened since he's come back from his injury, where a lot more of his throws are lower ADOT throws that are easier to complete, throws that don't put so much strain on your body. And luckily for us bettors who are betting is over, throws that just continue to rack up those attempts. Just keep racking up those attempts. You don't have to, a quarterback doesn't have to play well to hit this prop. They don't have to be healthy to hit this prop. All they have to do is throw the ball. So that's Jalen Hurts over 31.5 passing attempts.
Yeah, I like it. I mean, it makes a ton of sense. It's correlated. Also the Chiefs are a bottom 5 defense in allowing quarterback rush yards as well. So,
yeah,
we'll see how that plays in, if they're going to run the ball a little bit more with Hurts and maybe get him up at like the 10, 11, 12 number with attempts. So, I think that's a good play, and it makes a ton of sense. And, we didn't even talk about how bad Kansas City's cornerback room has been. And like,
oh my God, yeah.
L'Jarius Sneed's got to come back from a concussion. And I think he's going to play. I haven't heard official word.
I think, yeah, they said he was in, and that was what, Thursday? So yesterday, I think they said he was going to play.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's a clear matchup advantage for the Eagles receivers against the Chiefs cornerback room. So I think that's definitely a favorable one, assuming, it's a lot of check downs and, short ADOTs. So
Yeah.
that's definitely something I'm looking at with you. One that I liked, and I gave it out early this week,
Okay.
like way earlier in the week. Travis Kelce over 7.5 catches plus 110.
Yes, bro. I'm on that too. Let's go.
So I checked it out, right? I checked out the same thing. It got moved down. Him getting over 7.5 catches on FanDuel is minus 105, and it was plus 110. Like, how many people are hitting this? And like, it was really frustrating because I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, all these people putting this action on the Super Bowl, which is just so frustrating as a bettor because you have to be so quick with numbers. And, I didn't put that much action on anything else just because I'm kind of content with what I have right now.
Yeah.
But I think Kelce makes a ton of sense. I think he's going to have a lot of favorable coverages against this downhill linebacking core of the Eagles that loves to blitz and loves to stop the run, all that kind of stuff. And like I said, I think Kelce needs 15 targets. I think that's what the Chiefs should strive for. And we've seen in the playoffs year after year, Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid make it a priority to get the ball to number 87. So if he's getting 15 targets, I think he's getting 9-10 catches. I think Kelce's going to have a big game. So I would probably look in the neighborhood of him getting over 100 yards, a tutty, and really keeping this team in it. So that plus 110 was locked in. And then also something I think is like more of a novelty that it's interesting. You could take over 5.5 sacks for the game. But I was looking at an alternate, Brett.
Okay. What were you looking at?
Over 8.5 sacks at plus 610. Wow. Three of the last 7 Super Bowls have featured the quarterbacks getting sacked at least 9 times.
Holy smokes.
So now you look at the Chiefs and the Eagles. They are the most sacking defenses in the NFL this year. I mean, Eagles had 70, Chiefs had 55, 125 combined with the two of them. Jalen Hurts got sacked a bunch, 38 times in 15 games. Mahomes, like I said, he didn't get sacked a lot on paper, but there was games where he got dropped 3-4 times. And I think this is a number that definitely could hit, especially if it turns into a track meet where both of these quarterbacks are dropping back to throw 35, 40 times. So I think that has an outside chance of hitting, believe it or not.
I like that, man. I like that. And then I want to touch on your Travis Kelce prop. I took him at over 6.5 receptions and over 7.5 receptions. Look, I knew that he had a high snap share, right? I didn't realize it was the highest in the last 2 games, the highest outside of Patrick Mahomes in the last game and then Juju the game before that. But through the season, Travis Kelce has had a snap share of a target share of 24.5%. That's like 5th best in the NFL, only behind the most elite wide receivers in the NFL. It is the Super Bowl. A guy who has been to the Super Bowl, who has grinded with Patrick Mahomes. When times get tough, it is going to go to Travis Kelce. And then if we want to talk about any weakness in the Eagles secondary, in their linebacker group in coverage, it's definitely they're covering the tight end. 6th in the defensive DVOA versus number 2 in defensive DVOA. I'm excited for this prop. I just think that let's look back to when they played the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. He had 10 catches, I think. 10 catches, 100 yards, something like that.
Yeah, he had TK had 10 for 15 that game.
Yeah,
100 yards, and then that Niners Super Bowl back in 2019 was only 6 targets, but I mean it's different. You had Tyreek Hill back then, and now you don't have Tyreek Hill. So I think Travis Kelce's due for a big workload, and I think he's going to have a big game because that's just what he does, bro. He shows up in the playoffs. He's an elite tight end, but when it comes time for the playoffs, for the money time, showtime, Travis Kelce's money, bro.
Yeah,
Travis Kelce, he steps it up, and bro, you already know what Kelce's going to give you in the regular season. So I mean, that's just. You can't beat this game. And like I said, I think despite how solid Philly looked against tight ends on paper this year, they haven't played a tight end like him.
They have not. That is totally true. And that's what it's crazy because you think about Travis Kelce, when you match up these numbers against most teams, they haven't played against a Travis Kelce.
And they haven't even played against a real quarterback.
Yeah.
The best quarterback they probably played against this year was Kirk Cousins. maybe Dak Prescott. Like, it's very difficult to cover Kelsey all game. And then especially when you got a guy like Mahomes throwing him the rock, like, this is the kind of player that you're going to look to really exploit some numbers. And that's why his anytime touchdown got steamed. It's out to minus 125 in some places. But I mean, that's what you expect with a guy like him.
Yeah.
So Brad, let's bring in Johnny V's Loch Ness Monster. My favorite prop of Super Bowl Sunday.
Dude.
Devontae Smith over 63.5 receiving yards. This goes in line with Jalen Hurts throwing the ball. This goes in line with Devontae Smith he's a stallion, bro. He's a slim reaper like Kevin Durant. He cleared 64 yards in his final 6 games of the regular season. Like, he really found his niche in this offense. He was the one outproducing A.J. Brown by a landslide. And I think why this is successful and why it works. A.J. Brown is a man among boys. Why I loved him coming out of Ole Miss is because he reminded me of Julio Jones. And I love Julio Jones. And, because of that and that physicality, I think they're going to dedicate more attention to Brown, like teams have done, leaving Devontae Smith in single coverage and favorable matchups. And I think if Smith's getting 8-9 targets, which is probably realistic.
Probably going to happen, yeah.
64 yards is definitely a reasonable request when it comes to eclipsing this number for Johnny V and really bringing home a nice winner.
I like that, man. I like that a lot. It's going to be funny because one of those wide receivers is going to have a massive game. And
which one?
I think they both can hit their props because I think that I think if you can get AJ Brown under 74, I don't know what I haven't checked the AJ Brown prop since 2 days ago. If you can get him from under 74, you get Smith at 64. I think they can both hit it. Man,
Brown.
I just think 72.5. I just think that Spagnuolo is going to be aggressive, right? But we don't know how is he going to be aggressive. Like, is he going to be aggressive to stop Hurts' legs, or is he going to be aggressive to totally make AJ Brown obsolete? That's what's going to be fun to see. I don't think you game plan for stopping Devonta Smith. So that's why I like your bet a lot. I don't think that's in your game plan when you have to pick your poison. Is AJ Brown going to absolutely destroy you? AJ Brown, one of the best at stopping beating man coverage. I think you're gonna want to stop that over, Devonta Smith. God, he's just such a good player. He's not a guy that you're like, Devonta Smith is gonna kill us this game. We need a game plan for him, which I like your prop a lot, man.
Yeah, that's definitely one of my favorites. And obviously when it comes to Kansas City, can they get home with their 4? They've been able to generate pressure, and some of those pressures and those sacks, they force turnovers. And they haven't forced a lot of turnovers this season. They're actually in the bottom third of the NFL, but they seem to get timely takeaways. And in a game like this, that's important. One takeaway could decide the matchup. I mean, I really think that this could come down to the wire, and it probably will. And speaking of, do you have any lean towards the total? Do you think 50.5 is too high? It's been kind of staying around there.
I think it goes over, but how I'm going to play this is I'm okay with it I'm okay with it not being on the total. But if we get a 3-0 or a 7-0 first quarter, I'm going to take the over because I think it's going to probably be 46, 47.5, and I think we get over that. But I still think these just two offenses that are too good. And then at any point, this is not like playing against the San Francisco 49ers without a quarterback. If the Chiefs are losing and they're down double digits, they are not dead. They are not dead by any means. So I think it's a line that you can just continue to keep hitting as the game progresses.
Honestly, I'm not a big fan of totals. I have to see a clear advantage for me to say I'm going to bet this. One thing that kind of interests me. Now we know how great Philadelphia has been in the first half, but the Chiefs are also pretty good as well. Would you take the Chiefs at plus 102 or the Eagles minus 124 for the first half?
Eagles. I would take the Eagles. Eagles have been one of the best first half teams in the NFL. And I think that time and time again, we've seen the Chiefs be okay with, game planning, making adjustments, letting Patrick Mahomes guide them. I've done it a lot where I've just been, all right, looks like I'm just rooting for Patrick Mahomes today. You know what I mean? Like it's he's one of those guys where if they're down, I'm okay with it. And I think that actually takes a lot of stress off your team where your defense can make adjustments at halftime. You guys can grow into the game. So yeah, I would probably take the Eagles. They're just so talented, man. Like especially at starting games, and we've seen it time and time again. You want to bet Eagles second quarter, that then for some reason the third quarter they take their foot off the gas. Sometimes it's because they're up too big, and sometimes it's just probably because like still a young team. Like they're still young. You know, it's hard to remain focused for 4 quarters.
So what I know how well they've done in the first quarter this year, or the first half, I should say. You don't think at all that this type of atmosphere and pressure, they're going to come out a little slow? Like Sirianni is not that kind of coach, though. Sirianni is a pedal to the metal, aggressive coach. But sometimes we've seen in the Super Bowl that this moment teams come out a little bit timid.
I just don't think that's going to happen with this Eagles team. Their defense has so many veterans. And then when you think about their quarterback, their wide receiver, like you have a quarterback who played in multiple national championships, who actually led a potential game-winning drive with 2 minutes left on the clock against Clemson in a game they probably should have won. Devonta Smith, who's played and won multiple national championships. I just think that they're just different guys. Like I'm not that afraid. It's not like a bunch of young guys who didn't have those big moments in their college career.
It's a fair point. Brad Thomas, fantastic as always. Tell everybody where they can find you and your work.
Yeah, man. So first and foremost, you guys can follow me on Twitter at Mr. Brad Thomas. Also, my articles are on NBCSportsEdge.com. You can find my content, Gold Boys, or on the NBC Sports social pages. Take care.
Thank you so much, Brad. Talk to you soon. And dude, FSGA coming up. The boys are about to have an absolute ball. I mean, I'm gonna school you on the college baseball game too, kid. Like we got.
Dude, I'm ready. I'm ready.
Like how many times did I say during the football season I couldn't wait for this atrocity to be over? Because college baseball, man, it's around the corner. It's elite. Like people don't really understand how great college baseball is. And, you know,
dude,
I think a lot of people would, you know, resent me for saying something like that. But
dude, I'm glad like that you are into college baseball, because like just like me betting like Portuguese soccer, like those are less focused lines. They're softer. And if you are elite at it, like that's money I'm down to bet on, you know, I'm down to put money on it.
Yeah, we're throwing 500 on a couple of plays at next Friday in Vegas.
Heck yeah.
So really appreciate it, Brad. We'll talk to you soon, and good luck this weekend.
Thanks, man. I can't wait to see you next week, bro.
Yeah, me too. All right, pal. Talk to you later.
Yeah.
Thanks. Brad Thomas, great as always. So that'll wrap up the show. Make sure you follow me on Twitter at _JohnnyVTV, and you can see the rest of the handles down there. Don't forget to sign up for Bet Karma Premium. Seriously, we're putting out fire content, great picks. You can use our model that's going to help you really win some money. So definitely take advantage of what we have to offer at Bet Karma. Thank you so much for being a part of the Breaking Bet debut. We'll see you next week covering college baseball.